Some say that alongside this see-it-to-believe-it world is the shadowy realm of the supernatural. Sometimes the residents of that dimension touch us, and in one moment, our lives are changed forever. America's Lady of Supernatural Thrillers, Mary Ann Pohl, is your real Ghost Chatter host. On this podcast, you'll hear stories by real people who have seen real ghosts. Once in a while, Mary Ann will podcast a tale taken from the genre she loves best, the supernatural. Welcome to today's Real Ghost Chatter episode.
Have you heard about Anchor? If you haven't, I'm here to tell you it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free, and I mean free. I haven't paid a dime to produce or distribute my podcasts. There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. How easy is that? Podcast distribution can be a headache, but not with Anchor. Anchor distributes your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many, many more. As a bonus and not an obligation, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Anchor has everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. I'm Mary Ann Pohl, America's Lady of Supernatural Thrillers, a charter member of a wonderful group of authors called Author Masterminds, and your host on Real Ghost Chatter. I'm thrilled today, I'm really thrilled, to welcome Devan from Amador Paranormal Investigation and Research Group. Devan heads this group. He and his team explore haunted locations, but as exciting to me is Devan's life-changing experience, which brought him to this line of work, is as interesting and as his investigations are. Devan had the experience of dying and coming back to life. I've read about them, but never had the chance to talk to someone until today who has gone through this. Not to give it away, so I'm going to ask Devan to tell you his own story about his experience. To learn more about Amador Paranormal, you can find them on Facebook under Amador Paranormal Investigation and Research. At the end of this interview, I will also ask Devan to give us that and any other place that you can find his investigations. I did take a look at the page on Facebook, and I'm going to say, wow, it has lots of wonderful investigations and information on there. Welcome to the show, Devan.
Thank you.
You have experience I have interviewed few people who have psychic abilities, but none that have the ones you do. And yours are so honed. I feel like I'm being drawn right into a wonderful story, but this is reality. So I'm going to ask you to start sharing, if you would, what happened to you, actually what happened before you had this big event in your life that occurred that caused you to be even more open to the supernatural.
And thank you very much for being on the show and everything. Yes, basically, most of my stories go back even farther than most would even remember. A lot of my stories, come back from even before I was even born. I can remember as far back as being in the womb of my mother and being in another room. Prior to that, I remember stories of things that have happened when I was a child, even just starting elementary school, junior high, high school, a lot of paranormal stories on that end, and even just, every day of life, of living throughout college. I could tell you stories about how I left my body and walked around in the area of the Bay Area of San Francisco and visited people that were dead, and just everyday life of that. Tell you stories about how I died and came back to life. But I mean, where do you want me to start? Where would you like me to start at?
I would love you to tell us about a little bit before what you experienced before you had your death experience, because I want to hear that story too. I want my listeners to hear that story.
Okay, so I was in college. I went down Valley College in Concord, California, I was going to take a class, and this class basically had to deal with kind of outer body experiences. And my instructor says, he goes, so have any of you ever left your body? I mean, do any of you even know how to do that? And so he taught us how to do it. And we would be in this room, and he was in another room, and the room had no windows. There was no windows, no doors, just one light, and that was it. And he would turn off the light, and so it was completely quiet. I mean, you could yell as loud as you want in this room, and nobody could hear you outside. And complete audio, everything was recorded, there was video, everything. And so he wanted us to test the way that, and this is kind of like the beginning of the paranormal. This is around the same time when Ghostbusters was a huge hit at the time, and it kept on being a huge hit. You know, I mean, there wasn't too many people that were doing paranormal research or anything. They were just kind of researching it to the point of like, what is the paranormal? How does the paranormal work? You know, and this is basically how this was going on. And so, of course, we ended up in this room, and it took weeks. You know, this wasn't like a couple of days. It took weeks to actually do this. And so he would teach us to sleep, you know, and how to relax our bodies and how to make it so that we were connected more to our soul than to our body. You could hear your heart. You could hear yourself think. You know, you were able to leave your body, and you would be in this room, and it was very, you had to be very careful because you could die. You could literally go to sleep and die on your way to heaven. I mean, you can leave.
Wow.
And, you know, if you didn't do it correctly, you would die that motion that day. You know, so it was very dangerous. It wasn't very, you know, there wasn't much of a safety precautions here. So we were sitting in the room, and he goes, okay, well, each person's going to go in the room. You're going to have about 2 hours. It's all going to be recorded and audioed and everything. And so, of course, sometimes it didn't work. But whenever time I went in there, it worked. I mean, I was able to walk right through the wall, and I'd see everything. I saw everything going on. I know all the stories that everybody ever even talked to me about, or even talked about without me even being there. You know, and they're like, oh, I can hear the guy snoring, you know, I bet you he's just in there taking a free nap, you know? And this one lady came running in going that there was a fire somewhere. And, you know, and so, of course, you know, all this was being recorded not just in the room that I was in, but also being recorded in the room that I wasn't in. So, of course, you know, there's no way that I would have been able to tell all those people after I woke up what I heard, what I saw, without actually leaving my body. And that's exactly what happened. I actually, I woke up after 2 hours, the alarm went off, and I woke up, and it was a really big, deep sleep. I walked out, and I told my professor, I said, well, I left my body, and they were like, yeah, right, you know, everybody says that, you know. And I said, no, really, I left my body, and there was a fire. I went to go look at the fire, and I told this woman to leave, and she heard me, and she left. And there was about a 4-story building. It was 3 blocks down the road. I told him exactly what time of day this was, and there's no way I could have known this because I was asleep. There's no way I could know this. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, this is amazing. There is so much research going on right this second as we talk. This is amazing. This is more research than they've ever received ever. And so he ended up passing away, unfortunately. He went a little bit beyond what he wanted to do, and he ended up going to sleep one day at his house, and he never woke up.
Oh, wow.
Nobody knows why or what happened. They don't know if he had a heart attack or a stroke, or someone came and tried to wake him up while he was already leaving his body. But yeah, he went beyond what he wanted to do and beyond his safety, measures and everything. And yeah, basically He never woke up.
Wow. Have you seen him after?
Yeah, actually, I have. I've seen him a few times. He's doing really well. He hangs out with his family. He watched his great-granddaughter grow up. He would have passed away probably about a few years ago, if anything. He was a lot older back then. When you see him now, it's more like he's in his, 30s, 40s. When people die, they die kind of in their, state of the way they are when they're alive. But when you see them dead, sometimes you see them older. A lot of times, they're kind of just like half the age of when they pass away.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that is an interesting observation on your part, because you see them, I don't. Do you have any idea why that is? Why some will come older and some will come as if they're just younger than they were when they died?
I think it has something to do with their age group or just how they are in that realm. Like our realm, it's kind of it's always moving all the time. I mean, it's moving so much that I'm actually amazed at how old we really are. Like, for example, if you were on another planet, for example, in another universe, the years would go by a lot quicker for every minute that we're on Earth. So for every minute that went by, you would be about another 7 years on top of that.
Like a dog's life, huh?
Exactly. And it's been recorded that this is 100% true. But, that's the thing, is that in another realm, on Earth, it's totally different. It's nothing like what you see with your own eyes. It's darker. Some of them are kind of light. I've only seen one that it was light, and that's before I was born. But when in the darker realms, it doesn't mean it's negative. It could be a positive realm. It doesn't even have to be negative or positive. In those realms, they see us kind of like a blur, just like we see them a blur. And the volume is different. The speech is different. But the way that they see us, it's kind of like black and white. It's like, I guess you could say it's like, I don't know how well you know about animals, but if you know about how dogs see humans, they only see us in black and white. Mm-hmm. So that's how they recognize, who we are. They recognize most of us because of their smell, because they have 4,200 different senses in their nose.
Right.
Their senses. So of course they can tell if we're evil or if we're bad, if we're good, if we're sick, if we're gonna die soon. They know more about us than we know about each other.
That's a fact.
But the way they see us in black and white. So they see us in shadows. And that's exactly how the paranormal looks at us too. They see us in shadows, so they don't even know if we're for real. But the way we see them, we're like going, is that for real, or is that fake, or was I seeing something? Maybe I'm about to have a stroke. You start seeing things and you're like going, well, the doctor would say that if you see this, then you're having a stroke. But that's not true. A lot of people think that they say, okay, well, if I see this, maybe there's something wrong with my eyes. So they go and see an eye doctor, and they go, well, there's nothing wrong with your eyes. Well, but I saw a shadow figure. Okay, well, some people believe in that stuff, some people don't.
Right. I tend to believe in it. A couple of times I've experienced that something out of the corner of my eye thing that looks like a shadow of some kind.
Right.
That was before I got old enough to have floaters in my eyes, I'm saying. Just saying. But anyway. But literally, I've had that experience, and I pray. I'm a big prayer. And so literally, I prayed it away. I haven't had it happen, for probably a few years. But when we moved into this house, those things were happening more regularly than I wanted it to have happen.
Right.
So I can see that.
And that's the thing. About certain people, the non-believers, those people are fun to play with because, everybody on the planet, every single living person on the planet, well, maybe not all living, some could be even dead too. The dead don't even believe that the living even exist, unless they actually know you, or talk to you or whatnot, or they even talk back. But I mean, even the living, it's funny how you run into somebody and they go, "Oh, I don't believe in ghosts." "Oh, do you believe in God?" "No, I don't believe in God either." Well, then it even gets even more complicated, because if they don't believe in God, then it's even a harder factor. But the people that do believe in God, then you go, well, you do understand that in the Bible it states about the Holy Ghost.
Mm-hmm. It's God's Spirit.
If you believe in God and you believe in the Bible, then you believe in ghosts too. And then they really have nothing to say.
Well, a lot of people think that they're just, depending on what religion, they're demons or whatever. And there are, by the way, there are. And that's, why I write what I do. But literally I do a lot of research on this, just not like you do. But because, it's also in the Bible about spirits that have been called out.
Right. Because
the Witch of Endor is in the Old Testament talks about that. And literally people, when I say, no, that person that was called out wasn't there, shouldn't have been called out. God said, don't do it. But it was a spirit. It wasn't a demon.
Right.
So that's another argument. I mean, if you want to go to the Old Testament, take a look at it, read that, because people don't understand that, Jesus talked about it.
Well, even Jesus ended up being a spirit as well. I mean, when he died and he walked through the rock, that they had him in the cave and everything, he was still a spirit, which means that spirits do exist. Well,
spirits do. He actually rose from the dead and they moved the rock, but in his form, he could walk through walls in that form. And so who knows what's going to happen, right? How exciting. Anyway, I'd be okay with walking through a wall and not having to open the door. Yeah. So anyway, I know that there are non-believers, but I also know there are people that sometimes they're afraid and don't want to believe.
Right. There are a lot of people out there that are afraid. In fact, we have a couple do believe but don't believe that, they've never seen a ghost, they've never seen a spirit, they've seen certain things, but they just think that basically it was a deja vu, or maybe it was just something that, a car drove by and they're like, oh, well, a car drove by, or I don't know, it was a moon reflection through the window and it was making it look like a spirit, it could have been, there's just so many different things out there that people try to find to debunk, that what they saw didn't really exist. People out there and they're like going, well, it's fun to debunk it, it proves that basically that, that maybe what we did see wasn't really what we saw. But then again, at the same time, that's almost no different from saying, okay, so what you're saying is that, deja vu doesn't exist. Because you're second guessing yourself on a regular basis. You basically second guess yourself every single day. Mm-hmm. So if you decide that you want to go to the store, are you going to go now or are you going to wait until later? Are you going to buy this item or are you going to wait until later and buy it later down the road? Are you going to buy something on sale now or are you going to buy it when it's not on sale? All these different things of how people think these days, they second guess everything that they're doing. People that second guess if ghosts or spirits or whatever's going on around them, it's kind of sad, really. But those people are normal. They're happy with their lives. They enjoy living the way their life is, and that there's nothing wrong with that. At the same time, someone might come up to them and say, "So, do you believe in ghosts?" "Well, I'm a paranormal investigator, but I haven't really found anything. I do see things every once in a while, but I debunk them, so I find out that they're not real." Me, every once in a while, I'd say once in a blue moon, I can debunk something. But it's debunking for me is really, 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 really hard. Because there's just so much out there that I'm seeing that it's almost impossible for me to actually debunk it without proving it.
Huh. Interesting. That's a really interesting perspective. I tend to try to debunk it before I decide it's something paranormal, only because
really do that because I see them all the time.
Well, yeah, you're different than I am. I don't see them all the time.
See, when I see them, like for example, my wife and I, we were driving down the road. This was a couple weeks ago. We were driving down the road, and I saw a woman, and she had no hair. So obviously she had some kind of cancer. And she was walking up the road, and I looked over, and I saw her walking up the road, and she was staring right at me. And I was thinking to myself, well, either she just died, or that was a real person. So I asked my wife, I said, did you see that lady walking up the road? And she goes, yeah, I saw her. Well, that means that she was alive, because obviously she wasn't dead, because otherwise she'd say, no, I saw nothing. And then, of course, there's been some times where basically I'll see a man out in the middle of the road. I will literally either swerve or slam on my brakes, and then automatically I went right through him. And she'd be like, my wife would say, what happened? What are you doing? And I'd be like, don't worry, I'm driving. 'Cause I don't want to freak her out, because otherwise I start thinking too much about it. Especially when I'm driving, it's really hard because I see them more and more out there on the road than anything else. It gets so difficult just driving alone. Sometimes I literally can't even have my wife drive me around town, because it's not that I just don't feel comfortable. It's the fact that I see so many people. Well, sorry, I don't see people. I see spirits out on the road. I'm afraid that I might grab the wheel and pull her off of the road.
I see. Yeah, that would be scary.
I'm so afraid that I can't tell if they're real or not until we've actually ran them over.
Wow, I've never not heard anyone say that to me before. I mean, I've heard some people say, apparition was so real, they thought it was a real person, it vanished, blah, blah, blah. But I have never heard somebody tell me of the number you were seeing, and that every one of those, you can't tell if they're alive or dead.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be able to tell you unless they were actually moving.
Wow.
When they move, they flicker. And I can tell definitely, like, right away. But sometimes if they're just standing there, I can see them as clear as I see you on your picture.
Wow. That is astounding. Do you have nightmares about this? How do you accept this in your world?
Most of my nightmares are true stories. They're things that have happened or haven't happened.
Or are going to happen.
Most of my nightmares are from... I wouldn't call them nightmares. I call them just regular dreams. Things that have happened even prior to my life. I witnessed my grandfather in World War II, and this was when he was alive at the time. Sleeping right next to him, we actually took a kind of like a zap nap, or that's how he would look at it, as he took a nap on the TV when just watching TV, he'd have a remote control in his hand, he'd fall asleep.
That was my dad.
And I'd be like, can you turn up the volume? And he'd be snoring. And I was just like, oh, here, let me do that for you. And he called it a zap nap. And so of course, we took a zap nap together one time, and I woke up, and this was hours later, and he'd be like, wow, you must have been really tired. You slept more than I did. And I said, Grandpa, we have something to talk about. And he goes, okay. And I said, look, I know you don't want to talk about this, and I know it's really hard to talk about, but I really need to ask you some questions about what happened in the war. And I tell you, it took me some time to get him to open up. It literally took some time. I wish I had this on recorder. I wish that basically that we had cell phones back then. I was younger at the time. So, of course, there was really no way of recording it back then. I mean, I wish so much I could go back in time and just record this. It was unbelievable. But I told him that, in my dream, this is what I dreamed about. And so I told him about World War II. I told him exactly where he was at and who I was and why we were there. It was in Europe. The European theater, close to that. I told him that there was 4 people that were there, They were all just digging holes, and it was about to storm, and so everyone was digging holes. I told them that basically this was roughly like around November or so. It hadn't snowed yet, but there was a lot of rain, and so they were out in the dirt. They were digging holes, and I said, you said that you needed to dig this hole deeper than normal because you had a feeling that their bomb was going to go off, that someone was going to drop a bomb near you guys. And so you were telling everybody to dig deeper than normal. Usually you only dig deep 3 feet. You told everybody to dig at least 6 to 7 feet down, and that you guys were going to put this giant log over you so that if a bomb did go off, if it hit the wood, the shrapnel would have hit the wood and not your heads.
Wow.
Well, after I was done talking to him about this story, he was crying. I've never seen my grandfather cry ever in my entire life. Even when his father passed away, he was strong. He never even cried to that. This is the first time I ever saw my grandfather cry, ever. He looked at me and he goes, I've always known that you had a special gift, but I didn't know it was this powerful.
I was going to say, your gift is powerful.
He goes, I never thought that I would ever have to go back to that day, but you're about 1,000% correct.
Wow.
That's exactly what happened. The bomb did go off. It destroyed probably half of the building. If we did not dig 6 feet down and put that huge tree over us, we would have been all dead. You would not have ever been alive today.
Wow. So he had a gift of his own in a sense.
He was able to see the future really well. In fact, he knew about 2020. He knew about the pandemic before anyone else did. He didn't live, he may have lived during the last pandemic prior, but I think he was more of a child back then, so he didn't know too much about it. He was born in 1911, and my grandmother was born in 1915. So they both lived during the last pandemic. Yeah,
they lived during the Spanish flu. That was 1918. Right. Yeah.
He told me this maybe about I'd say about 20 years ago, give or take, that to be ready. He said, I don't know how bad it's going to be, but it's going to be pretty bad. And so even before the pandemic even happened, I actually have proof that I actually talked about the pandemic prior to the pandemic actually happening in 2020. I told lots of people to, be ready. This is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to be. And they were like, how do you know this? And I said, because my grandfather told me for years. And it's not going to end. People think that it's done. It's not done.
No, I agree.
It is not done. It's going to happen. This is going to continue on for the next 4 years. Or actually, it's going to be 3 years. Eventually it will fade away. It's going to, affect everybody in the long run.
Well, it affects everybody in a lot of ways, and even if they didn't get the illness.
Right. It's not even a mental rate. It's more of a physical and mental rate. It's not just about sickness. It's about how we're living our lives, how much the cost of living is going to be. Things are going to go up.
You and I will definitely need to have a discussion about that. Sounds like we.
Of course. Yeah. Of course.
But we've got I can't believe our time is gone. It has gone really fast, and we haven't even gotten to even part of what I wanted to talk to you about. Can you quickly share one of your investigations that you've done with Amador that sticks out in your mind?
Yes.
I know I'm putting you on the spot and all, but
Yeah, no, it's all right. Okay, let's see here. We were investigating at Preston Castle. This was about a month ago. A very historical place. It's listed on the map. Everyone knows about it. Located in Ione. It's called Preston Castle in Ione. I could tell you the history, but it would take me too long of this to go on.
I think I know about Preston Castle.
It was a school for kids that weren't old enough to go to jail or prison.
Right.
So what they did is they took these kids that either they started fires or they stole things or they even murdered people. They ended up going to this school. So I mean, and a lot of kids, they could have even been, just maybe their parents passed away and they just didn't have a place to put them, so they put them there.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't a really bad school, but it wasn't a good one either. There was a lot of bad things that happened there, a lot of murders that happened there, a lot of kids died there, a lot of the people that worked there perished away because they were murdered or something happened or they got sick. So I mean, there's a lot of hauntings that go on there, a lot of hauntings. Mm-hmm. And it's not just people that grew up there or lived there, but also the people that have died around the area for the last 100 years as well. It's a building. You can see it from hundreds of miles away. It's 5 stories high. Wow. And it's got a bell tower and everything, which looks beautiful, by the way. But and of course they've been working on it. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to get involved into the first paranormal investigation there. So we contacted the actual owners and the paranormal group that was in charge of it, and we said, hey, we're from the area, and they said, yeah, we know who you are, and we were like, okay, well, we have a large group and we wanted to investigate the first time that you guys open up. And they said, that sounds excellent, we'll definitely do it. So they ended up opening up, and we got in, and we went through their entire spiel about their rules and everything and whatnot. And it's always important to have rules. It's always important, because you don't want people to walk in there thinking they can do whatever they want.
I agree.
And especially when this is a historical building, it costs a lot of money. To rent out this building, it costs you about $2,000 just to rent.
Wow. That's
for the deposit, by the way.
Wow.
Deposit is $2,000. And then it's another $2,000 rent with your own money, with the people that you want to be, to investigate with. And that's just for one night. Now, if anything goes wrong, guess what? That's where your deposit comes in. Mm-hmm. So if you break a wall, you break a window, you break something that you shouldn't even be breaking, guess what? That's where the deposit goes. Mm-hmm. It goes towards the fixing of the place that needs to be fixed, and that's where all the money goes anyways. So while we were there, we walked through the entire place, and we broke up into 2 teams so that we went, one team would go in one area, another team would go in another area, and you can't hear the other people. This place is really big. Floor on an area where most people wouldn't be able to get to anyway. So it was a special time for all of us. So we were on the 3rd floor, and before we got to the 3rd floor, we were on the 2nd floor. So we're on the 2nd floor, and everybody's kind of ready to go upstairs. And I said, well, I can't go up there yet. And they said, why? And I said, well, the spirit that's on the stairway, he's telling me that I can't go up there yet. So I have to wait. And they were kind of confused a little bit. So why can't you go upstairs? And I said, well, you guys can go up there because it won't bother you, he can see me, I can see him, I can hear him, he can hear me. But you guys can't see them, so it's okay, you can go up there. He'll try to stop you. You might feel a wind or something. You might feel someone tapping your shoulder going, excuse me, what are you doing? But he's not going to bother you. So I waited a little bit, and of course, I looked back up, and he goes, okay, we're done up here. You can come on up. So I looked over at everybody, and I said, okay, we can go up there now. And he goes, so is it okay with the ghosts? And I said, yeah. He said it's fine. He said that basically they were cleaning up their rooms. And so, of course, they felt uncomfortable about me coming up there because I'd be able to see, who they are and what they are. And it was weird because the ghost knew who I was. He knew who I was. He knew that I could see him. And they all knew that I could see them. It was just really strange because usually that doesn't happen. Usually ignore me until I actually say, hey, how's it going? I'm Devan. I'm a paranormal investigator. I'm not here to, bother you or harass you or provoke you. I just want to learn more about you. If you don't want me to be here, please let me know and I'll go somewhere else. And they tell me, they go, you're not welcome here. You need to leave. You can go over there. You can go over here, but just leave us alone. And I do that. I do it 100% because I wouldn't want them to come back and haunt me later down the road.
No kidding.
I wouldn't want them to come home with me and make me sick and ill.
Right. And
they can do that. Mm-hmm. So, once again, it's, I help them as much as they help me. Mm-hmm. It's just like the living, I help them as much as they help me. I don't want to burn any bridges with the dead, and I don't want to burn any bridges with the living.
Well, and I think that story just actually gave me a little bit of the shivers. That it was that clear that. Well, actually, a lot of those rooms have fallen to the second floor, so you can't even walk in them. There's a room, but there's no floor. In some of the rooms, there's no ceiling. Wow.
The fourth floor is gone.
Wow.
It's fallen through the third floor and gone into the second floor, and they've been cleaning it up ever since.
See, and that makes me sad. Sorry.
Yeah, it really is. It really is sad. There's so much damage to the place that, but I mean, they've literally changed a lot of things on there. I know there's a company that purchased it about 3 years ago. They spent $10 million on purchasing it and putting in new structures, and they're rebuilding the whole entire place. Mm-hmm. Pretty soon it's going to look just like it did when they first opened in 1888.
Oh, that would be good. Maybe the spirits that are there would feel happier and wouldn't feel like they had to clean up all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
eventually, what they have planned for this building is it's going to become a museum.
Oh, great.
They're going to make it so that you can actually go into on the third floor and walk around into these rooms that will exist later down the road. They've already put up a brand new roof up, so it does get covered when it rains now. Before, some of the roof portions were open, and birds would walk in, and animals and other things would be inside. Mm-hmm. Now they have a brand new roof that they put up. It cost them almost $500,000.
Oh my gosh!
Well, I know, and this, and it's they put in so much remodeling of just making it safe for people to walk in. It's not even funny.
Wow!
They put in brand new sprinkler systems in throughout the entire building. This building is made out of stone. The wood structures are still there. The wood, some of the wood panelings are still in there. Everything is all original, and they want to keep it as much as original as possible. The doctor's office is all original. It's got doctor, equipment and everything, and it's all original from early 1800s on. Everything is all original, which is really nice. And it's all haunted, too. But, that's the thing.
That's a bonus for you.
A lot of different places, that you see these days, they go, oh, well, nothing here is original except for the building itself. And it's really sad, because, and then when you find out, oh, well, we did have stuff in here, but it was sold, or it had disease in it, or there were dolls here, and we had to throw the dolls away. Well, that's the biggest mistake right there. Mm-hmm. You start throwing stuff away that it is haunted, and then all of a sudden, the place is no longer haunted, because when you throw stuff away, you're throwing away the ghost as well.
Aww.
The spirit that is attached to that item goes with the item. And so, and of course, if they are attached to that building, or they are attached to that house, or whatever, then they'll always be attached to that house until it burns to the ground, or until you remove it, or until you remove the ground.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say they'd still be on the grounds, wouldn't they?
What's that?
They'd still be on the grounds, I would imagine, wouldn't they? Or can they go somewhere else?
Well, they can go to other places. It's very difficult. That's another story I'm going to have to explain to you later.
We'll do that later because we're about out of time here.
It's very, very complicated to explain it to you. But you know what's interesting is when we did get up to the third floor, I was able to see a lot of the spirits. A lot of the kids came out and they sat down with us, and they make all the meters go off, and I mean right on cue too. I mean, it was just perfect. I mean, there was a couple of times when I'd be like, come on over, you know, it's okay, it's not gonna hurt you, just come and touch it, you know. And the child would be coming over, and he kind of, you know, it's like he wants to do it, but he's afraid,
right?
You know, and that happens a lot. A lot of times the kids, they've never seen the object before. They've seen it, but they haven't seen it. They want to touch it, but they're not sure if it's going to hurt them, you know? Mm-hmm. And they trust us, but they don't trust us. Mm-hmm. They know that I can send them on to the next realm, a different realm, and send them away for 10,000 years, and they don't want that. And I don't ever want to send them there. I've been able to do it in the past, and I've done it a couple times, and I feel really bad for it, but they kind of deserved it.
Well, it depends on who they are, yeah. Yeah,
they were pretty bad.
Yeah.
But, you know, and that's the thing, you know, it's amazing on how cute they come up and they go, and I go, okay, he's about to touch it, okay, he's now going to touch it, and it goes off, and I get it right on cue, right on filming, right on everything, and people are like going, wow, that was great, you know, right. And I'm like thinking to myself, you have no idea what I'm just looking at here, you know. But it's just like a regular child in a school, you know. You're looking at the child and you tell the child, oh, it's okay, you come over and paint, you know, and they're like going, well, I don't know if I should, you know. And you're like going, no, it's okay, come on over here. You know, and then they finally get over there and they're doing and they're painting and they're like having fun, you know, and they don't want to leave, you know, they don't want to stop. Well, right. Spirits are the same way. They don't want to stop because once they start, it's like so much fun. It's so new to them. It's just as new to us as it is for them. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, when you say, okay, you need to back away now, you need to stop. And they're like going, no, I don't want to stop. This is too much fun. You know, this is too new for me. Because they know that we're not going to come back. Mm-hmm. It might be months. It might be weeks. You know, a day goes by for them, and it's a year for us. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, it's just, that's how it is. Mm-hmm. And, you know, sometimes you get nothing. You know, sometimes, in fact, the other group that was downstairs, they got zero. They got absolutely no evidence whatsoever. And I was like, oh my gosh, we got so much evidence, it wasn't even funny. And they were like, how is it every time you guys are on your own, everything happens around you? And I was like, well, sooner or later you're going to find out that there's more about me that you really know. Mm-hmm. But there's just so much that you as an author, my story would be more of like, I guess like a dictionary. It is just going to be so long.
Oh, it sounds like it. Although
I just don't know exactly how much you're going to be able to like do because there's just so much.
Right. I know. You might have to have volumes on you.
Yeah, every single paranormal investigation that I've done, you know, I'm constantly being asked by certain people and they go, you know, why don't you write a book about it? That's the thing. I just can't. You know, I'm not good with words. I can't really pronounce them out very well. I can't even spell them out right. I had learning and speech development growing up, which I don't care if anybody knows about this. A lot of people know about this, to tell you the truth. You know, there's probably about 3,000 people that I graduated in high school with, and they all know who I am. You know, they've known me my entire life, more than what my parents would actually be able to tell you. And so, you know, I can't just sit down and write a book. I wouldn't even be able to really, you know, I could videotape something, and I couldn't sit there longer than 15 minutes and watch it, and it would be about 10 hours long. It's just too much for me. I've got too much going on in my life, and I just can't sit there for 10 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or even sit there for an hour and just pay attention to certain things.
That's okay.
You know, and so
that's why you have an editor.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that's why you have an editor. Exactly. You know, so, you know, or even having you as an author, you know, I mean, you know, you could write the book for me, or
I could do that.
Or do whatever you want. You know, you can get all the credit for it. I wouldn't care.
No, I wouldn't do that.
As long as it got out there, that's all it really matters.
Well, then first of all, we're gonna now you've got my listeners, I bet, really interested, because they're going, oh, is this going to be a book? And I will say to my listeners, I don't know, but it could be. So what I'm going to do is end this. So anyway, I'm going to say this has been an amazing interview with you. That you took this much time with us is so good. It's so wonderful. And I want to thank you for sharing your story. And what I want you to do now is tell people where they can find you on Instagram and Facebook and any place else. Okay, so on Facebook, Amador Paranormal Investigation and Research. AMADOR space PARANORMAL space Investigations and Research. And of course that's on Facebook. Instagram, Amador Paranormal Investigator, and that is AMADOR _ PARANORMAL _INVESTIGATOR. You can put an at the beginning of all of that, and that will automatically take you from your own Instagram. If you go into your search menu and then put at, and then put Amador Paranormal Investigator with the underscores in between the two, and that will take you straight to our Instagram following page. Great. Go ahead and follow us or like us, and I'll follow you back as well. Great.
Or you can add us onto Facebook, like our page, and if you have something that you want us to like, we'll like it back. Or if you have something that you want us to follow, we'll follow you back as well.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. I really have had fun talking to you, Devan, and I'm hoping we get to do this again soon. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you so much. It was a wonderful time meeting you, Mary, and you know, and I can't wait to move on and just do more recordings of this and give you more stories. I've got a lot of stories, and we have a lot more investigations coming up. In case if any of your viewers watch Netflix, I have another story for you, but I can't talk too much about it. But eventually we will be on Netflix as well.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Later on in the year. So
oh, what fun.
You got something to look forward to.
Yeah, boy. Okay. Thank you. If you enjoyed this podcast, I encourage you to share it with others you think would also be interested. If you'd like to know more about me, go to MARYANNPOLL.com and or authormasterminds.com/MARY-ANN-POLL. Until next time, may the wind always be at your back, the sun on your face, and the good Lord walk beside you.